I'm going to, let's give it a little bit. We can do some introductions while we let everyone else log on. I'm gonna launch us, and then I'm gonna turn it over to everyone else for the evening. But I'm Amy Graziano. I'm on staff with Douglas Land Conservancy, and Sarah Corliss, give a wave. She's the other Douglas Land Conservancy staff person, and it's her birthday today. So if you just joined, you'll be so happy you missed us singing to her. And so happy birthday, Sarah. Thanks for joining us on your birthday. We are on staff at Douglas Land Conservancy, like I already said, and I know all of you are volunteers with DLC, so you know the whole story on what we do and who we are. So I don't think I'm going to spend any time. I think we want to get right to the good stuff. But I will say that I'm excited about this because it feels really special. So many of you volunteer weekly for this project during the warm months, yet I might not have even really met you or spent time with you. You're such a big part of the organization, and we thank you so much for all that you do. And it's really nice to see some faces and just have the opportunity to engage a little bit. So thanks for coming tonight. Elizabeth has put together a great program, and I know it's really, it's a really, I don't know, interactive thing you're all going to be sharing. So I'm looking forward to hearing your fun stories. And I heard there's some great pictures, and thank you all for coming and for your time with the Bluebirds. And I'm going to also share that Christine Arthen, our volunteer coordinator, couldn't attend this evening, and she wanted to pass along her thanks for all you do as volunteers. So thank you. Thank you. That's all I have to say. It's going to be kind of a casual format tonight. We will probably all, we should probably all mute ourselves if we're not talking. And we can utilize the chat rather than maybe interrupting, since there's so many of us on the call. But we will stop and we'll have time for Q&A at the end. And then also it's being recorded. So if you had a friend on your route that wasn't able to attend today, we can share with them later. So Elizabeth, turning it over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Amy. And the first person that I'd like to introduce tonight is our natural resources specialist for Douglas County, and that's Jackie Sanderson. And you all know that this is a cooperative project between the county and Douglas Land Conservancy. And Jackie has been involved with the Bluebird project since quite a while before DLC ever got involved. So Jackie, tell us a little bit about your involvement, the history, whatever you want to tell us. Jackie?
She's frozen. Oh, there she
goes. There she is.
Maybe.
Jackie, we can't hear you.
She's having
okay, sure. Back actually, yeah, oh, all of a sudden I lost my face. Let's see, share content. Do I need to do that? Only the host can share in this meeting.
We can see you, Jackie, or now we can't. Now we can.
Yeah.
Do you have slides that you want to share, Jackie?
No, you can't. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, and we can see
okay.
you, but you have been freezing, in and out of freezing. So we've got you now. Are there slides that you want to share?
Oh,
I can give you permission.
Yeah, no, I don't, not slides, but I was going to talk about the different properties that, and how we got the Bluebird projects going on 12 different properties. So anyway, the first Bluebird project that we had for Douglas County open space was at Greenland, and it's actually in the kind of the western part of the Greenland open space, and it's on the west side. Are you still there with me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. somebody else just went out there. So it was in 2001 at Greenland, and we had an Eagle Scout, and I was working with his brother, and I was still working at Denver Botanic Gardens at Chatfield, and the younger brother also wanted a project, so he contacted Douglas County and did his Bluebird project all around that area that's close to Cheryl Matthews's property. So it was adjacent to her property, and she was working there. There was a small staff of 3, and they got him started at Greenland, and we had Audubon. Audubon was always active with the Bluebird projects that we had, and so they took over and helped with the monitoring of those Bluebird houses for the first project. And later on, and Kevin Corwin, who's the head of the Bluebird project for the state of Colorado, he went down and also monitored that Greenland project too. And there were several Audubon people involved in it. And then our next project, when I started working in 2002 for Douglas County Open Space, the next project was at Hidden Mesa. And he did boxes down at the lower part of his Hidden Mesa and then up on the top part too. And so we went to Kevin to get ideas for how to build the boxes. And through the years, we found out that the requirements for those boxes changed. Every couple of years, it seemed like, they wanted to do it first, lift it up from the front, and then it was later on to the side to get into the boxes. And a lot of other things changed too through the years. But Kevin Corwin was our go-to person to find out, what changes needed to be made. And then Prairie Canyon Ranch has had 3 Bluebird projects there. And one of the projects was taken care of by Audubon after the Eagle Scout had put up the boxes. And unfortunately, that Scout, even though he was supposed to put screws in, he used nails. And that way, the boxes started falling apart. There were cattle that were rubbing on them, and they didn't last long at all. But we did have people from Audubon that were monitoring those. And then we did closer to the barn at Prairie Canyon Ranch. We had another Eagle Scout and his father. I think his father took more interest in the project than the Scout did. And the father went on to monitor that in Nest Watch for at least 3 years after the son had already graduated from high school. So that continued on for quite a bit. And then when he left, we were entering the Nest Watch for him. And then we had Bingham Lake, which is our Parks Department looks after Bingham Lake, and that's up in the south of Parker. And that was a little bit different project. It wasn't one of our open space properties, but it was by a lake, and it is a real birdie kind of place there. So that fit in well too. And that project has not been maintained there. After that, we had DuPont, the DuPont area. We put boxes, the Eagle Scout put his boxes there, got that one started. And after
What
that,
year are we talking about now, Jackie? Where are we time-wise in the timeline?
That one, gosh, it was probably 2012-ish, maybe when the DuPont one went in. I'm just guessing at that, but right about that time. And after that was, I think Dawson Butte went in right after that. We had one Scout, and he had his boxes kind of in the middle of the DuPont property, a little bit to the east side. And then there were two board members, one board member from DLC that approached us, and that board member lived really close to Dawson Butte, so she wanted to put a box up. And I think it was at that time then we got the scout to go in and do the boxes, and she might have put in a box also. After that, it was Lincoln Mountain. Soon after Lincoln Mountain opened up, we had a couple of scout projects putting in benches and signs, and a couple other projects there. And then we had the Bluebird boxes put in. And that scout, I think, did a really, really good job. And he actually mapped his box route, which was beneficial. And then we got Kurt Frankenfeld involved too. And I asked him if he wouldn't mind working with a scout. And I had to twist his arm, I think, at first, Kurt, but I think you did it. And we pulled you in and had you mentor the scout who did his project on Spruce Mountain. And I think he needed a little bit of mentoring at that time. And anyway, he got that route at least started on Spruce Mountain. Some things needed to be changed around a little bit later and replaced, but at least that's turned out to be a good route in through there. And then one of our most recent projects was the redo of Prairie Canyon. They were changing fences there, and so we went ahead and replaced a lot of those boxes. And we've also found out in the last couple of years that we needed more guards for any animals getting up into the boxes, trying to keep snakes out of them. And so basically a snake guard. And that's gone through several renovations of different types of snake guards, different trials. Some worked, some didn't. Each time they get a little bit better. And so now we're just waiting for the Bluebirds to come into that project. I think Sharon, she can talk about that a little later, but I think there's just one nesting pair that's there. So that's
you did a very good
Pardon?
job covering our snake training project.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, there have been 12 Eagle Scout projects on various properties that Douglas County Open Space owns. And now we're really happy that there are a lot of other volunteers that have come in and have taken over and started and have been helping for the last few years to do this on a regular basis and to monitor the conservation values, and sending all the reports into Nest Watch. And then, another one that popped up was the one at Glendale. And a scout had talked to me, but he never came back. And then a little later, we started noticing that some boxes have been put up. I never signed his paperwork for Eagle Scouts, but those appeared. And I think they just recently, Elizabeth and Kurt have gone in and replaced some of those boxes and have that up and working now. So that's kind of the history. It's been 21 years that we've had the Bluebird boxes going. And through those years, of course, there have been a lot of bears. There have been a lot of replacements. Boxes have gotten old and fallen apart, and some of them are still going and still there. So anyway, any questions about?
Yes, Jackie, it's Sharon.
About,
do you know
yes.
the dates on the first Prairie Canyon Trail or the Lincoln Mountain Trail?
I would have to look those up. I have all of the scouts and files, and it's it was quite a while. I remember Kevin Corwin and a couple going into Prairie Canyon. It was quite a while when Audubon was actively working. Hugh and Erling, they did the Hidden Mesa boxes. They kept track of those. And
So you can
So
guess if
I-
you want, but if the first one was 2001 and then Hidden Mesa, and then the third one was Prairie Canyon, was there just like 2 or 3 years difference there? Like 2003 or 4, like that?
I would have to look it up, Sharon. You know,
Oh.
I have all the files and everything, but I'd have to go through the files and of all the Eagle Scouts for that year and then find out which ones did the Bluebird boxes, and then determine, you know, which property they were at too. But
Okay, thank you,
if you
Jackie.
really want to know, I could dig it all up.
Okay, if you have any more questions throughout our little presentations, please use chat and we'll answer questions at the end, or we won't get through all of our groups. But I invited Jackie because you all hear from me all of the time. And I really wanted you to know how important this cooperative arrangement was. And I wanted you to know how the whole project originated. And, you know, Jackie, for most of you, seems kind of in the background, but for me, because I coordinate with her all the time, and for Kurt, who coordinates with her about all the funding for the project and the box building and everything, we know just how important Jackie's role is. And I want you to know every time you're out on the property that you're representing 2 organizations. You're out there as a Douglas County open space volunteer. You all filled out paperwork for that, and a Douglas Land Conservancy volunteer. So make us proud. So thank you so much, Jackie. We
Okay.
could not have started this without you, and we couldn't continue it without you. So
Okay. Yeah,
Kurt
one
is going to,
one other thing I'd
yes,
like to, or 2 other things.
yeah,
One, definitely, we have an online sign up for the volunteers now. So we want to know, you know, who's out there on the properties, who's going off trail, you know, because if we see somebody out there going off trail, you know, our rangers don't know who they are, you know, unless they have some identification with Douglas County. And with your vehicles, we do have car tags. There's been, I think at Spruce Mountain, there's a car that came in the gate over there, and our rangers didn't know who was there with their car inside the gate and how they got through the gate. And so I said, I bet it was somebody that's a Bluebird monitor. And so we need to make sure that you have that identification, that Douglas County tag to put up in your car so that people can recognize who's coming through the gates and what's happening there. So I don't want anybody to be trailed and found, you know, not with that. So we want that, and get you signed up with the Douglas County Open Space so we can track, you know, who's there, and we know you. And a lot of times at Kurt and Elizabeth's at the end of the year, we go there and have a great dinner, and we get to talk about things that have happened during the year with the Bluebird boxes and the monitoring. So I look forward to that, hopefully this year too.
so
If you're still cooking meat.
I will coordinate with Jackie, and I'll send a questionnaire out to all of you. If you need the hanging tags for your car, we'll get that taken care of. But we need to move on because we've got 8 groups to hear from in about an hour. And thank you so much, Jackie. And
Okay.
Everybody remember you're representing both, and remember the important part that DCOS is playing in our project. So Kurt is going to share my screen. Okay, so we've talked.
I don't think that took just a second.
Okay.
What do you see on the screen?
Bluebird
Okay.
Chronicles, Mountain Bluebird.
Okay.
Okay,
then it did.
good.
All right, that's
Yeah.
fine.
So we've pretty much talked about the cooperative arrangement between DCOS and DLC. And so for the Bluebird Chronicles, our cast of characters are all the project team members and of course the birds. So well, and I'm Kurt Frankenfeld, and this is my husband, Kurt, and he keeps your boxes in good condition and helps in many ways on the project. So
On a Zoom class.
okay, I'm sorry I didn't hear that, but if we can save questions till chat, that'd be great because we've got a lot to get through here. So I think that Jackie pretty much covered this, but our project is part of the Colorado Bluebird Project. We would have loved to have had Kevin Corwin here tonight, but it's his anniversary and celebrating with his wife was really important. So we're glad he did that. So Kurt. Okay, so the first route that we're going to talk about, and Jackie talked a little bit about the history, is the Greenland Bluebird route. And I want to do one thing before turning it over to the Greenland monitors, and that is congratulate Harriet Stratton. She was the winner of our first egg contest, first prize this year. This is a photograph of the mountain bluebird eggs that she took, and I'll let her tell you something special about them in a moment. But congratulations, thank you for sending the picture and participating in our contest, and our first, second, and third place winners are all going to get a little prize in the mail. So next. Okay, so this is the team, and as I noted that Kevin couldn't be there. Harriet is here. Harriet, would you like to introduce the rest of this team and then take it away?
I'd be happy to introduce Sarah Corliss, who I saw in a little square. I don't see her now, but I did. Say hi, Sarah, or maybe she can't. I don't know.
I'm here.
Oh, good. There she is.
Yeah.
And then also on our team is Laura Roberts, who I didn't quite see in one of our boxes. Laura, are you here? Another person we're going to miss because she's moving, like next week, is Evelyn Perret. So that's our team, along with Kevin. Nice job putting up our site. We basically have 46 boxes that are stretched around what I think is called Spruce Meadows open space now. When it was named Greenland, we thought it was Greenland open space, I think, basically is what the deal is. But okay. So here's a slide of the same nest for which this bird really won first place with the first eggs. And you'll notice it's quite unusual because it's got now 7 white eggs in it. Some of them seem to be slightly tinting blue. And this kind of is an interesting piece of this trail through Kevin and his many contacts around the state with birders. We got involved with Dr. Mike Wonder at CU Denver's ornithology lab, and his graduates, his PhD candidate students who were looking at migration projects. And they came out to our trail. We captured bluebirds in the boxes. They banded some birds, and they put little backpacks, including a geo monitor, just a tiny, like fingernail size digital device that would track where these bluebirds go in the winter. That was the question. Now, that all sounded good, but the catch was that we needed to catch those birds when they came back for the next breeding season, to remove that little backpack and then get it to Dr. Wonder and his students to extract the data that was on it. And it was thought that bluebirds had they had a nest fidelity rate that was quite high, that they would come back to the same nest and area year after year. Well, in terms of the project, this bird that is on the screen and you can clearly see the tag on it, or the band that was on it, sorry, not the tag, was really the only bird that we could discern that came back. So we didn't get much information from that particular project. But I think it's ironic because the bird who won the first egg contest really has provided more information about site fidelity and I mean, of course, we don't know where she migrates to, but in terms of site fidelity, because of her unique colored eggs, these white eggs, it's easy to tell. It's that bird that comes back to the very same couple of boxes, one of about 3 boxes on that trail every year. So that's the interesting part of and this is just, you get to share in the pleasure. I know you all have spectacular bluebird routes, but Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit about our pleasure?
Well, yes, and how many years you've had at least 3 years of the white eggs, is that correct, Harriet?
And probably more if I went back in the records and looked. I mean, let's say 3 that I've kind of gone, oh, this is the same bird. I mean, you know, I think there are a couple more years that could be backed up there with data.
I'll be brief. My boxes are along the No Road, and meeting Harriet and Evelyn, I quickly got under their wings and said I wanted to do some bluebird boxes, and they're the ones who really got me going on the Greenland path. But it's been fun this year because last year for everyone it was just a bad year, and this year you can see the birds coming back, being successful, looking healthy. In my opinion, the bluebirds are bluer this year, but that's just an opinion, but it looks great. So I love our route and I'm glad we get to do it.
Great. Thank you to both of you. That's wonderful. Okay, we're going to move on to DuPont Open Space. And most of the monitors at DuPont are new. This is their first year. Helga has been monitoring for the town of Castle Rock, but this is her first year at DuPont. And she sent me the photo of the second prize in the first egg contest. Helga can't be here this evening, but we really appreciated seeing first eggs from a new monitor on one of our routes. And so this is the DuPont Bluebird team. I'm not sure who's here. Who's here from the DuPont Bluebird team?
Lenore.
Lenore is a brand new monitor. How are you doing, Lenore? What do you think of this route?
Oh, I think it's gorgeous. Absolutely. It's beautiful. It's very relaxing. And I want to thank you for taking me out, Elizabeth. It was just a wonderful walk. I've only been out once. I'm looking forward to next time. But Elizabeth and I we saw the number 4 box, the one that had the eggs the next week. We saw it with the completed nest. So the next week, I believe, is when the eggs were there. So it was exciting anyway. So it was lovely. I enjoy that route very much.
Thank you. And in case you don't know, Lenore is one of the most experienced and most knowledgeable botanical experts in our area. And she's taught native plant master classes and been the president of our Colorado Native Plant Society chapter in Denver. And she is just a plant person extraordinaire. So if you're having the opportunity to go out with her on a Bluebird route, you'll probably learn a lot about plants too. So she was kind of my mentor when I was learning how to teach a native plant master class, and I dearly love being out in the trail with her. Is there anybody else from the DuPont team here?
Hi, guys. This is Sandy Stavnis. I'm here too.
Hi, Sandy. Great. Let's move to the next slide and see if Sandy has anything to tell us on the next couple of slides.
Well, you know, I guess I would just say I'm very new, and I've lived in Sedalia since the mid-90s, and almost since the day I moved here, I wanted to do this. So I'm very excited to be able to do it. It's very close to my house, so I'm excited about that. And then another maybe not so fun fact is I retired from the EPA a year and a half ago, and I worked in the Superfund program. So the DuPont site is a Superfund site. Interestingly, it's a dynamite site, but the contaminants of concern are mostly from a shooting range that the town of Louviers had adjacent to the Superfund site that DuPont inadvertently decided to go ahead and clean up for the town. So it's a safe site to be on, just so you know, but it's just kind of interesting that the real activity at the site that caused any contamination was from the town having let in, you know, shooting targets or whatever near the plant. Anyway, I think we have about 10-ish boxes. Is that right, Kurt and Elizabeth? Something in that range?
There's 13.
Okay.
Yeah, boxes 1 through 10, and then they're in a weird order because they were put up in different times. Boxes 1 through 10, and then you'll see on the right, R1, R2, and R3. We don't know where those boxes came from. Jackie probably does, but they were on the fence around the contaminated area of the DuPont factory that was being cleaned up. And so we named them Rogue 1, Rogue 2, and Rogue 3. All of the boxes that were along the fence, 4, 8, 5, 6, 9, 7, R1, R2, and R3 were moved this year off the fence and onto separate poles. So we're hoping that there will be less predation problem, and we're looking forward to it. So, but that's the map. So what do we see here in this slide?
Well, I think we started with an observation of 3, and now we have 6. So it's really exciting.
Yeah.
And Lenore, please jump in. But one of the things I think is interesting is we have floodplain, we have creek bottom, we have wooded areas, we have open spaces. And this box is in an open space facing the road into town. So I think it's the only one we have any eggs so far. And it's right there in the middle of the metropolis of Louviers in a way. So it's kind of interesting that they selected that one.
Yeah. Okay, so this actually happened before our current monitors were here, but you remember that last year we didn't have very many bluebirds, especially early season. And some of these boxes, you can see if you look at the bottom, you see some grass for a grass nest. Those were bluebird nests, but after those first nests, the house wrens took over, and house wrens will build fake nests, false nests. So though I love the little guys, I think they're beautiful, and we certainly take care of them if they're in our boxes. They can build false nests, and because they do that, they take up a lot of space that could be used by our other birds. So so Sandy and Lenore, anything else you want to tell us about the house wren boxes? I shouldn't talk. I should let you talk.
I haven't seen any wren boxes, so they're very, very interesting, but I guess I hope not to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. And we're so glad to have new monitors because we love to spread the joy, and we know that we've got a great bunch of monitors on that route now, and they're going to keep track of the success of the boxes. And next fall, if we don't have a little better success from things other than house wrens, we're going to be talking to Jackie about moving them quite a ways away, but we're going to see which nests are successful first. So, okay, our third route that we're going to talk about today is Dawson Butte, and Carolyn Jones, who was the winner of our first place nest last year, as third prize in the first egg contest this year on April 22nd. And you notice that we tried to put the estimated first egg date. And I think all our new monitors now know that essentially the bluebirds lay 1 egg a day. So if you see 6 eggs, you can pretty much figure that the first one was laid at least 6 days ago, depending on when in the cycle you're there. So, but this is looks like a pretty big team, but this team does things differently than a lot of our open space teams, because if they can't drive the route like part of the Greenland route, which is very long too, but they can drive because it's along the road. The Dawson Butte route people have to walk, and it would be over 5 miles. So a few years back, I always tell each team they can decide how they want to divide up the route and monitor, whether it's in time or distance. And this group decided that they were going to monitor specific groups of boxes that were in specific areas of the route. And then nobody would have to walk quite so far. And I don't know for sure who's here. I saw Krista and Carolyn. Any of you who were here from that team, please chime in and tell us what we're looking at. But first of all, I love these. I always love these little pictures of the birds, the baby birds with their mouths wide open, waiting to be fed. And I don't know if Rick is on, but this is one of Rick's photos, and I know Krista is here. So we'll look at the next, and I'm going to be quiet, and you all can talk about whatever you want on your route.
This is Carolyn. Now, I love being out there at Dawson Butte. I like to have a reason to go out there every week. And I've got 2 boxes with 6 eggs in 2, and 1 with 5, 2 full nests, and then 1 empty nest that has nothing going on it. I may ask to have it moved next year. I found out I cannot open Nest Watch if I don't remember to open it from home first. So.
Okay, I don't know if Rick is here. So any of you from that route want to just tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here? This is what you might see when you looked in the box. Okay, we don't have to talk about every slide, but I like that slide because Rick took pictures of a lot of different stages of the birds. This one too. And then these are by Carolyn. Carolyn, can you talk to us about these pictures?
Yeah, I was really surprised when I got home and looked at the picture of the violet green, because I actually couldn't tell until I looked at the photo at home that I had the violet green somehow. So that was a good picture. It's always fun to go out on a hatch day. I love, stumbling into, it's a hatch day and you got a couple coming, a couple more coming. So yeah, it's fun. Lots of surprises.
Okay. Tell us a story about this one, Carolyn. The
I
slide on the right is one of my favorite pictures of all time.
I was lucky to get the picture at all because it's not what I expected when I opened the box and I saw the screen around. At first, I didn't know what the heck was going on here, but this one was on a fence post. And then when I saw the little mouse stick his head out, I was able to quickly snap a picture of that one. This is a few years back, but it was cute.
And these are Carolyn's also.
And that was disappointing. That's pretty kind of a bummer when you see that.
And I was looking at one of Carolyn's weekly reports about this time. She asked me if we could get some bear away, which unfortunately is not a product that really exists.
Snake away does, right?
Snake away does. So, Carolyn, did you ever see a bear on that route?
No, I never had. I mean, I found scat, pretty fresh scat this year in between a couple of my boxes where the trail is, but I've never seen a bear and haven't lost boxes yet this year.
Cool. Okay. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, that the box on the left was one of Carol's. I think Carol's on, but Carol, you want to talk about that or you want me to talk about it? I'll talk about it. So it just, we have not had a lot of snake problems at Dawson Butte, fortunately. This is one box we thought perhaps might have had because the eggs disappeared. So that's one of the various iterations of snake guards on it. And then the middle box again, that's absolutely typical bear damage. But the good news is the box on the right, that was the replacement box that was put up after that bear damage box in the middle. Carolyn, what else do you see on the Bluebird routes?
Oh, love my flowers. I mean, that's the reason that gets me out there too, is finding what flowers are blooming, what time of year, how the seasons change while you're there. I love that part.
Yeah, that's a area, that Dawson Butte, that we really like to take people on wildflower hikes because there's so many beautiful flowers. And that's absolutely a benefit of being a monitor, is that you get to see the views, the other birds, the flowers. That's pretty special. And I don't think John is here. John? So John was very surprised when this bird showed up at his house, and he lives really close to Dawson Butte, but he just learned about violet green swallows from the Bluebird route when he saw this bird and took this picture. So we wanted to include it because it's just such a great picture that really shows how the bird got its name with the violet and green. And Kurt, what would you say about the white around the eye?
Violet greens and tree swallows are very difficult to tell apart. And one of the key views that you can see is that the tree swallow, the black is going to come down under the eye, and this one comes up behind the eye. So you always have a real quick field ID to tell them apart.
Thank you. And so when you have a swallow nest, for the new people, I know we've talked a lot about the difference between what you'll find in a swallow nest and a bluebird nest, because the swallows put feathers in their nests, often feathers, well, almost always feathers from other species, and sometimes feathers from birds that don't even live anywhere close to the box. We find duck feathers in so many boxes far away from water. But at any rate, if you have a tree swallow or any kind of a swallow nest and you can't tell which one it is, spend some time away from the box with your binoculars and watch. And that white area around the eye is very distinctive. If you're looking in the box and mama is there, you may be able to not tell, because it's dark in the box, the difference in the colors of the feathers, but that white area around the eye is a really good identification. So, okay. So we talked a little bit about Glendale Farm, Bluebird group before. Some of our monitors there are experienced monitors who've been there quite a while. We also have a brand new monitor, and Mary Beth, we're glad that she's joined the team. And then Mary, you see the role data specialist. And for those of you who are not involved in actual monitoring, we have a new role this year because our teams are just learning to use a mobile application on their phones to collect Nest Watch data. And the data specialist is helping them learn how to do that, and then also checking on the Cornell University Lab of Ornithology Nest Watch website to make sure that everything gets entered correctly. So I am delighted, since we're doing something new, that we have this data specialist role, because I don't have to do anything. Thank you so much. So we'll move on to the next slide. And I know that there's a couple people, I believe, from Glendale. If you want to talk about this route, that's wonderful.
Hi, this is Susan. And I believe Mary Beth is here, our new monitor. She and I have gone out twice on the route. And I love this route because it's right off the highway, but you get back around where you see boxes 7, 8, and 9, even the 6A, 6B. And it's like you're in the middle of the prairie. It's so beautiful. The views of Pikes Peak. And we have some pretty great wildflowers too. Just don't tell anybody else. I think Mary Beth and I went out just this past weekend and found some interesting things, and that some boxes were fully done with a nest and 6 eggs in one box. We had 3 boxes with eggs. 1 box had a mama in it. And I had this theory that maybe the box that didn't have a nest was because of the construction that's going on. They're building a new parking lot. But then we went to the next box, and that's where we found 6 eggs. So that was so much for that theory. Apparently, they just decide which box they like best. We also saw a lot of tree swallows, and they were claiming and starting to build nests, and they are so amazing because they'll just hover right by you while you're checking the box. And Kurt, I really appreciate the tip on IDing by the white patch, because we did kind of have a hard time telling for sure which kind of swallow they were. So I'm just going to toss it over and see if Mary Beth would like to share anything as a new monitor out at Glendale Farm.
Not too much to add. It's been wonderful. Like Susan said, we've been out twice together. I went out once with Elizabeth and Mary to learn the route and get my feet wet, so to speak. So, I mean, it's gorgeous out there. It's so exciting to see these eggs. I about jumped out of my skin when we opened the box, and there's 6 eggs in one of them, and then the other one we saw the mama sitting on the nest, and we were both like, wow, this is so great. Yeah, it's super fun, and I'm just happy to be involved. And yeah, there's some pictures we were able to take obviously with the mirror looking in there. And yeah, I mean, we've only got a couple of boxes that have no activity. 3 out of 11, there's nothing happening. So I'm confident, like the other 2 gals are not on our call tonight. Cheryl and Jeanette, they're doing the opposite weeks that we are. So I bet by the time we go back out in 2 weeks, we're going to see a lot more activity. And I didn't expect it to be this fun, and I'm just loving it and very grateful. So thank you. And thank you to Susan. She's teaching me every week. I learn a little something new. So
Well, and it's fun to go out with Mary Beth because she's tall and I am short. So she holds that mirror up for me, and then I'm just the right height to take the picture from the mirror. So that's how we kind of got to, I can't even see up and into the nest. So I have to have the mirror. And that's how we ended up getting these pictures.
And I thought that was very creative. I like that. We were thinking about, if you have a cell phone, you shouldn't have the box open for even a minute. It should be less than a minute that it's open. You could get a cell phone in there and quickly take a picture. But if you don't have a cell phone, you have a regular camera, this would be a great way to get a quick picture from the mirror. I've never seen anybody do that before. I thought it was very creative. Thank you.
Elizabeth, the only thing I'll mention is that I'm surprised that, like, since I've been doing this now just for a few weeks or whatever, now I'm becoming a bird crazy person. Like, oh, what is that? Or, oh, like they're in my backyard. What is that? And I grab my little chart and I try to figure out what kind of bird. So it's really opened my eyes to the greater, world of birding out there. So I think that's going to become a passion and a hobby here pretty quick. So.
Awesome. And about that vintage home, that's actually the box that had the 6 eggs, I believe. Is that correct, Mary Beth?
I think so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we also agree it's a little tricky to get into those because they open different. I certainly like the opening from the side. That's my preference. So that's my 2 cents on that.
We'll make sure you get a new box there for the next season. I love the difference. So yeah. So what do you suppose she's seeing, Susan?
Well, she's seeing her mate flying around. Those two were very troubled by our presence, and they would sit there. And this was, I believe, after we were done checking the box and we had even backed away a little bit. That center picture, I have my phone camera zoomed all the way in. That's why it's so fuzzy, but they were keeping a lookout at us, I believe, and wanting us to get out. So we did.
And somebody noted already the flowers. Susan?
Yes. And the middle one is a plum bush. Those are plum blossoms. The one on the left, it kind of looks like a dandelion, but it's not, but maybe it's in the family. I'm not really sure, even though I went out with Sharon Hines and she taught me everything I needed to know. And then I go out and I could not
Good for Sharon. But I can tell you that is a dandelion, but it's a native dandelion called a wavy leaf dandelion. This is a good flower. It's a native flower. So if you have those growing in your yard or property, that's wonderful. It is a dandelion, but a native, very special kind. So cool. I love the flowers. Okay. So Hidden Mesa, I know Jackie talked a little bit about Hidden Mesa has had various different configurations of roots over the years. And the current one is all up on top of the mesa. And these are the members of the Hidden Mesa Bluebird team. And I think that one of the members of that team is going to tell us a little more about what's there.
Hi, this is Jay. I think the rest of my team mostly is here. Carolyn, Rebecca, Becky, and Sue. I think I saw them all. And this picture was taken a week and a half ago. One of our boxes. We have 21 out at Hidden Mesa. And last Friday, I wasn't on the route, but they reported 3 boxes with eggs. And I think there's another 6 that have nests in various stages of completion. So this week we hope to see much more activity. And our route's kind of a little Y-shape. Goes out to the left and you come back and go out along the southern section there of Hidden Mesa. And it's a nice route. It's got good views of the Front Range from north of Longs Peak all the way down to Pikes Peak. So on a clear day, it's wonderful. A day like today with a lot of smoke from New Mexico, it's not so pretty, but we enjoy it. And this is a couple of weeks ago. That's Sue on the right and Carolyn on the left, just seeing what's in there. Unfortunately, there were no eggs at that time, but it's probably one of the boxes that has eggs last week. And I noticed there's no number on the box there, so we need to fix that. And these are from last year, just bluebirds on the left, even though there's feathers in there, or a feather. And then probably swallows on the right, since there's a lot of feathers. And this was also last year. Mama's in there, maybe 1 or 2 eggs under. And this picture on the right is one of my favorites because you can see in the first egg there, the chick is just coming out. And I think there's 4 other chicks already out of their egg. And then the last egg in the background there has got a crack in it. So he or she hasn't quite pecked his way out. So it shows all sorts of different things you see on the day they get out of their eggs. And this is one of our aggressive birds that came in for a swoop at Carolyn. This again was a couple weeks ago. So there were no eggs last week. Actually, it was there. I think there might have been, but anyway, she's protecting what's inside, obviously. And this is last year. I think there was a full complement of 6 bluebirds in there. A very successful nest.
Yeah, Jay, for people who aren't bluebird monitors or aren't monitors yet, a lot of times when you look in a box, you just kind of see a pile of chicks. And we always say, count the beaks. So
right.
If there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are pretty obvious, and then another one off to the right. But if you can't see anything else, you can usually see the beaks. That's
Yes.
a nice picture.
And these are problems we had last year. Picture on the left, we're not quite sure what happened there. It's obviously no nest was completed, but yet at least 2 eggs were laid. So mystery. And the center picture is kind of the same thing. I think it was just abandoned because there's at least 2 desiccated fledglings in there. And I think 2 eggs you can see that are complete, not cracked open or anything. Then the picture on the right was probably a bear. It pretty well ripped the door off and knocked the box to the ground, and just a few feathers and remnants of a nest were left. And this one, Carolyn's husband is an engineer, and we've had some snake predation problems at Hidden Mesa. And he came out after the season last year with his wife, Carolyn, and designed a new box using, or a new snake guard using like a 15-gallon bucket for shrubs and trees. And he built an X metal frame underneath that stabilizes it. So we've got 3 of those on our route, and we're anxious to see if they fix our snake predation issues. And this was last week or 2 weeks ago when I was out. It's just one of my favorite things is to go out and take pictures of the birds. We usually do the route as a team of 2, 3, sometimes even all 4 of us go out. And I'll take my camera and do the pictures. Somebody else usually does the documentation, and then whoever's week it is does the box opening and egg count and things like that. And then we usually go out for breakfast too as a team. So we have a lot of fun out at Hidden Mesa. Really enjoy it. And I've got great teammates that we really enjoy each other's company.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next one is the Lincoln Mountain Bluebird team. And if you look at the list, we have two backup monitors, Kimberly Greer and Roger Greer. They were longtime monitors here. They had quite a few conflicts this year. So they helped with training the new people on the route and have volunteered to be backup monitors, and we are delighted about that. And then is someone from this year's team here that can talk a little bit about the route?
Hi, I'm here. I'm Kimberly. I think I'm unmuted, am I?
We can hear you.
Okay. I'm just really thankful to be assigned to a route. I am new to Larkspur and just a year. And I just ride my mountain bike everywhere on a lot of open space trails. And I have noticed all these nesting boxes over the last couple of years. And finally, I found information on the Bluebird project. So that's how I got involved. And my favorite part of our route is really to ride my bike. And as I approach each nest after I find it, that was interesting, but it felt like an Easter egg hunt to me to find the nesting boxes. So that's my favorite part, is approaching slowly and just taking my time on the route and watching to try to find the bluebirds around before I actually approach the nesting box, and to see what they're doing. And along with what Carolyn said, I love flowers too. And since I'm new, I'm learning about the flowers. So I photo a lot of flowers along the route too. And sometimes I even post them on the app. But again, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a picture of some of the flowers on the route in a few slides down. Yeah.
But thanks for the opportunity.
Anybody else from that route here? Okay, we have some wonderful new monitors on that team. They're all really very, very interested in everything that's around the box, not just the things that are in the box or on top of it. And David Walker has been taking pictures of a lot of the neighbors, the bird neighbors on the route. And I like these pictures because if you're out monitoring your boxes, you may see some of these other birds and wonder what they are. And so there's a couple of pictures from David that show some fairly common birds. And in a few slides, we'll show what happens if you look up in the sky. So Kimberly, there's a picture that Kimberly took of a bird checking out the box there. Jody just missed the first egg contest with this picture of the 5 beautiful little bluebird eggs. And then the picture on the right is another from Roger Greer from last year with a box full of babies. And the new monitors haven't seen any babies yet, and I know they're all anxious to see them. And I love this slide. This is Jody on the left, David on the right, and David by the box. And they had not seen at this point, when this picture was taken, anything in the box. I mean, I think maybe nest claim, which is just a couple pieces of grass. So I named that Waiting for the Birds, and then the Watch Pot. If they just stood there and watched that box, they weren't going to see a bird ever. So, and this was something I didn't know that David and Jody pointed out. The Boy Scouts that built the boxes on the Lincoln Mountain route, whoever built the actual box wrote his name on the bottom. And so Dave took this, I think, no, Jody took this picture looking up at the bottom of the box. And I just thought it was kind of nice symbolism that looking up at the bottom like that is like, if you don't see any birds around, try a different perspective. And this photo of Jody, she believed that this bird was checking out a natural nest cavity, which is wonderful. We really like to see that. And then these are pictures that Dave took, all looking up at the sky and over Lincoln Mountain. And I like to call this slide, one of these birds is not like the others. And I think you can tell. But we were talking about the white area around the eye of the violet green swallow. Well, here's the tree swallow. You see no white area around the eye, solid. That's just such a good distinguishing characteristic. And then the hawk pictures, Dave loves hawks. You look up in the sky, get your bird book out if you don't know the birds, and see if you can identify some of those beautiful raptors that you might see flying over Lincoln Mountain or any of our other bluebird routes. And then Jody and Dave took these pictures of wildflowers that were in bloom at Lincoln Mountain. And I know that two of the people who are here today, Barb Harback and Heather Cook, are currently engaged in a plant survey at Lincoln Mountain. So I'm sure they've seen all of these plants and many others up there. It's an interesting place for plants. So our next route is Prairie Canyon, and the Prairie Canyon team just missed the first egg contest with this one beautiful little egg. So they got an honorable mention, Cindy Harlan. I don't think Cindy's here, but I know that Sharon is here. So Sharon, you want to tell us a little bit about this route, or anybody else who's here from your team?
Jane is also here, but my
Okay.
team asked me to do the initial presentation. So Prairie Canyon is a working cattle ranch. And we had many boxes that were falling apart, and most of them were on a fence line. And we did have an incidence of a snake in the box. And we learned that birds don't like to be really close, have a box really close to them of the same species. And that if you double the boxes, that leaves one box open for another species. Well, last year we had 21 tree swallows and only 5 mountain bluebirds fledged. It was a really bad year. And the tree swallows had taken over a lot of the boxes. So by doubling up, we thought the tree swallows would have one, and that would leave them open for the mountain bluebirds. So far, we only have 1 active nest. And we don't know how many eggs she has, because since that first picture that Cindy took, every time we've opened the box, Mom's been sitting on it. And so we don't know how many eggs we have. But we also last year had violet green swallows, and she had eggs in one box. And then when she finished with that clutch, she just moved next door to the matching box. So we had one in 7A, and then she moved next door and had some more eggs in 7B. So that was fun. We don't have success with Western bluebirds in the box, but at the end, near the end of the season, when all of the young have fledged and everybody's out flying around, I always see Western bluebird families that have grown up in the woods around Prairie Canyon. So I had a fun story that I wanted to share when I was helping with the zoology teacher at Ponderosa High School. She brings her students out there in the morning for field trips. What their project is comparing, making notes of whether wildlife is compatible with a working ranch, and then making some kind of an observation about that in a report. So I was walking them around, showing them birds. And there is a snag that I knew that last year had Western bluebirds nesting in it. So we went over to this snag, and I said, well, last year there was Western bluebirds living in here. And she, and everybody says, oh, that's really cool. And I said, oh, by the way, later in the season, when you're out here, you're going to be hearing the bluebirds, and I want you to know what that sounds like. So I turned on the mountain bluebird song on Merlin, and I'm looking at my phone, and the students all go, look, look. And there were 3 Western bluebirds flying around over our head. And I had only turned that song on for about, 10 seconds. And suddenly out of the woods, there were 3 Western bluebirds flying around our heads at that snag. So they're nesting in there again this year. So that's exciting. What did you want to say, Jane?
Well, just mention the box that you see, 8B, had the eggs in it last year, the mountain bluebird eggs, and it's the same nest that has eggs in it this year so far out of all of ours. So I'm thinking it's probably the same pair. Talk about nest fidelity. So we're excited to see more moving in, but these guys are pretty well set up, and we're hope next week to see how many have hatched.
Yeah, if Mom will stop sitting on the nest when we get there, we may find out eventually how many are there. Yeah, you guys talking about a beautiful site. We have an awfully beautiful site to see too. So it's a tricky property because it's a working cattle ranch, lots of fences and stuff, but we make
Sharon took this picture when it was nice and wet there. That canyon isn't always quite so wet, but Sharon, that is just a treasure picture. I love it.
I didn't realize how did you get my picture of that?
Well, because I'm an email saver, and I have a folder for each team for each year since I started this project. And I went, I haven't heard from the Prairie Canyon people yet. I'll go back and see if I can find pictures. And I found this one that Sharon had taken, and I thought, oh, I've got to put that one in. She may not even remember the picture, but Sharon took this and shared it.
In the spring, when the snow is still in the canyon, or we've had a big rain, there are waterfalls gushing out of every crevice in that canyon. It's just spectacular.
Thank you. That's great. If you haven't had a chance to go to Prairie Canyon, it's sometimes I joke, it's a misnomer open space. So it's a Douglas County open space, but it's because it is a working cattle ranch, it's not open to the public all of the time, but there are public events that are held there, guided hikes. And if you haven't been to Prairie Canyon yet, pay attention for those opportunities because it's truly a little gem. It's beautiful. So our last team that's going to share today is Spruce Mountain. And I don't know if Nancy got here. She had an appointment earlier in the evening, but Nancy Page Cooper was another honorable mention for bluebird eggs. And everybody who monitors knows the first time you see eggs on your route every year is so special. So Nancy wasn't sure she was going to be here. Nancy, are you here? No, okay. So, but she wanted to just share her general feeling about it, and I love it. It says, it is a great sense of peace to walk the route. I so look forward to communicating with our feathered friends and to appreciate the beauty of Spruce Mountain. So thanks, Nancy. Now, all of our monitors have many different talents. And some of them, like Sharon singing, we should have had Sharon sing to us tonight, but it was a little easier to show one of Rose Legge's beautiful drawings. She graciously let us use this in her team's slides, this beautiful picture of the bluebird with the eggs. And I fell in love with the picture. I think it just has, and it's titled Quiet Time. And it just so beautifully illustrates the feeling of peace that you have when you look in these boxes or just walk on the routes in our beautiful locations. So I'm going to be quiet. Spruce Mountain team, you want to talk about this?
Okay, well, oh, go ahead, Rose.
Oh, Deanne, is that you?
Yes, this is Deanne, yeah. Oh. Am I gonna talk? Sorry. Yeah, we have a small team and not a huge route. It's a great one.
I think we're cutting in and out. I think we're cutting. Go ahead, Deanne. We have an unstable connection.
Oh, sorry about that. But we have Bob and Rose that are here with us tonight. They're a team that monitors, and then we have Nancy and myself. I've been doing it for about 6 years. Again, this is Deanne, and then we have a new assistant monitor this year, Sunny Madrid. So it's we take turns going, and we have 12 boxes on the route. It's a beautiful route. Kind of flat, which is nice. It doesn't go up to the high parts of Spruce Mountain. It stays on the lower and pretty much shaded. A lot of it is shaded, so it's just lovely. And I just enjoy it so much. We share it with a lot of cyclists, horseback riders. And here's another example of, I think, what we saw a little bit of earlier, what's in the box. And my method is to be ready with my cell phone. I'm not much of a photographer, but I just poke my cell phone in there and take a shot and then close the box again and then look at my picture to see what I've got. And I find that's, a less intrusive way sometimes to look inside the boxes. So here we have some beautiful eggs. We've got our wrens and swallows, and of course, some bluebird eggs. And then we've got some little ones, some pretty naked young that are just a day or so old. And then maybe some that are, 4 or 5 days, and then maybe a couple weeks. And I think one of the other people was talking about opening up the box and taking a photo and not noticing the beautiful swallow in there until they looked at the picture. And that's exactly what happened to me on this picture on the right. I didn't see her until I looked at the photo, but it was a great way to see what was going on in the box without disturbing them too much. And this one day, it was great. I was walking up to the route, and there sitting on the signpost was this gorgeous guy. My poor photography doesn't do him justice. And plus I had my cell phone on, zeroing in on him from a distance. So it was pretty fun though, to see him sitting right on the sign. So I had to snap a picture of that. We also have gorgeous views and beautiful wildflowers, as you can see. I think our wildflower crop kind of is not all wild sometimes. We're kind of close to some neighborhood residential areas. So I think some of the seeds that get spread out are maybe, from some gardens. Now I'll turn it over to the true artists, Bob and Rose. And here's some beautiful photography from them.
Yeah. Bob does a beautiful job. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, because our laptop keeps cutting out. You want to talk about these, honey?
Well, let's see. They've just different ones over the years. The one on the right there, I think, was this year. The one on the far left was an older one. And in fact, the two, the middle one and the one on the right were this year. Yeah, I can't remember around which area I saw them. I think it was more the end of the route. Yeah. So just up in the trees. So now, for sure, this one on the far left was the last one I took
Box 10,
at
right?
Box 10 just this past week. Yeah. And then
we have interesting, for our route, I heard someone else mention so many mountain bluebirds. We have Western bluebirds, almost never mountain bluebirds. We have one set hanging around this year, and I hope that they stay there, because usually we'll see them at the very beginning and then they kind of move on and we get all westerns for some reason.
Yeah, box 6, I think, has a mountain bluebird in it, nesting.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. Yeah, that would be great if that's true. 6 and 10, those are our big producers. We usually get double batches out of those every year, but those are the only 2 generally.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that's interesting is that the Greenland route is a little more than a mile away from your route, and they have almost all mountain bluebirds. And you mainly, well, you think about the difference in the habitat. Your route is along the edge of a woods, trees.
Yes.
One side and trees on the other. That's the habitat that the Western bluebirds love. And the mountain bluebirds like the wide open spaces. So they're doing a classic textbook example for those 2 routes, which is really cool.
That makes perfect sense now, because I've always wondered why we don't get the mountains.
I'm wondering about the no road route. What do they get there?
That's the Greenland route.
The
boxes along no road. Yeah.
We get all mountain.
Kevin Corwin told me.
That's so interesting.
Go ahead.
We get all mountain bluebirds.
Exactly.
And quite a few tree swallow nests.
Yes.
And lately we've gotten a mean little violet green infestation. Has anyone else had a pretty aggressive experience with, or maybe, I guess I shouldn't ask that question. Sorry.
No, that's a fine question. I remember when Kurt and I were still, we monitored 55 boxes every single week ourselves at Cherokee Ranch. And I remember, some of you have seen my hat that I've been wearing in the field for the last 30 years. That hat has been attacked by aggressive swallows. Actually hit the hat. So you're right, they can be aggressive.
Well, I was referring to, I don't want to carry this on, but it might be interesting. I had a violet green swallow nest next door to, remember that mountain bluebird that lays white eggs?
Yeah.
That very same nest, this was last year. She fledged her first group of babies and started on her second clutch. The violet green, I'm convinced, very meanly kicked out her eggs and started the second clutch of the violet greens in her box. Now, you would think she would give up. No. She moved across the fence line to a 3rd box and produced a very late, I would call it a 3rd clutch. I mean, she's a very dedicated producer. But I mean, that's why I'm just curious if anybody else has found violet green swallows to be aggressive towards our bluebirds.
We'll have to watch for that, Harriet. There's a homework assignment for everybody that has a violet green. Watch and see if you think they're more aggressive towards other birds or towards people. Yeah. Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. I am thrilled to hear about the experiences. And we have a few of the questions here. And the first one is from Sue Sloth. And she says, is the tag, I think she means the parking tag, required only for going to a non-public parking lot? I think that the hanging tag as a volunteer is something we need to get from Jackie. And it should be hanging on when you're a volunteer, you should hang it off your mirror when you're parking in Douglas County open space parking lot. So it's a public, when you're in a public parking lot. And that way, we'll know that that car belongs to a volunteer and who's actively doing something on the property. And if anything happens to you or the car, or they have questions about an activity they see going on, they'll know that there's a certified bona fide volunteer there. So we'll get some of those hang tags for you. And then this one is for the Greenland people. So did the banded bird show site fidelity?
Oh my God, that was the point of that photograph of box 9, because that was the bird that returned to that box. And Sarah, that's a heads up for you. I haven't really seen, you've kind of taken over that part of the route, and you should probably look around box 9 for a banded bird. Or 8. I mean.
Yeah, 8 has been always good. 9 has been empty the last 2 years.
Thank you. So this next one is an answer to from Jackie, I believe, about the fences that we, or the boxes that we called the rogue boxes at DuPont, R1, R2, and R3. And I think it's Jackie wrote this answer. It says the Southwest fence boxes were randomly put on the fences by residents of Levere's. So great, that's the origin of those. Then there's just a comment. Jay, fantastic photos. Bob, great photos. Thanks to Elizabeth and Kurt. How would we know when we can get into Prairie Canyon? Well, one of the things you can do is go on the Douglas Land Conservancy website and look at the upcoming events. And if you just search for Douglas County, or rather Douglas Land Conservancy, sorry. If you search for Douglas Land Conservancy, not the Facebook page, but the regular website, there's an events list and it talks about events that are going on. And if the county has an event for the public at Prairie Canyon, they advertise it pretty widely. So there's two different ways you can see those. Thanks for setting this up, and thanks to all the monitors out there. Jane, Jane Bowen wrote, for identifying birds by sight or sound, the Cornell Lab has an awesome app called Merlin ID. Very easy to use. And it even records the songs and photos for future reference and for sharing with others. Highly recommended. Then we have a thank you, Jane. Comment, such fun. Thanks all. One that says, thanks, Jackie, Amy, Kurt, and Elizabeth for putting this together. Fun to meet others. A reminder to all, as I often forget, enter your time monitoring and track it forward. Thank you, Susan Paulson. That is something that Christine was going to say tonight, and she couldn't be with us. Thank you. Carolyn Jones, join the North American Bluebird Society. You can search for NABS. That's my added comment. But if you join the North American Bluebird Society, you get a wonderful Bluebird magazine, great photos, and fantastic articles about bluebirds and monitoring and sometimes other birds. I highly recommend it. And then Rose says, this was a great way to get an overview. Good. I love hearing about all of the inside stories. So interesting. Thanks all. I think that's the last comment. Anybody, we have 2 minutes. Anybody else have a quick comment?
Yes, Elizabeth, Sharon, I would like to say something.
Mm-hmm.
I have a neighbor whose daughter is in college, but she had been showing a great interest in wanting to do some field work. So this last summer, she went doing some bird surveys with me, and we also looked at the Bluebird boxes. And when Elizabeth told us we were going to do this new system this year, and we needed a data specialist, I suspected that nobody on my team wanted to do that. I knew I didn't. So I asked her mother if she would contact her and ask her if she wanted to do this with us. And yes, we have a college student who's doing this, entering our data. And I told her she should talk to her guidance counselor and see if she can get some credit for something that she's going to do. She went out with Jane and me on, it was Jane's day to monitor, but since this young lady lives near me, I picked her up and we went over and joined Jane. And she is going to write a report at the end of this and come to some conclusions, and she's actually going to get credit for it. And she's really enjoying being a part of this project. So I'm so happy to get a really young person involved as a county volunteer.
Thank you. I especially that Sharon touched on a topic that's dear to my heartstrings, and that's getting members of the next generations involved. And thank you, Sharon, for that. And we also have a high school student who is one of the monitors at Lincoln Mountain this year. So we're real excited that the younger generation is getting involved too. So thank you, Amy, for all the work that you do in scheduling our events and helping us with so many different things, including setting up this Zoom meeting for us tonight. It says 8:30 on my clock, and I'm really dedicated to getting done on time. I was gonna say thank you, goodbye, everybody, good night, and happy birding to all of you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
I heard a cricket. Somebody has a cricket on their phone.
Oh, you know what?
Thanks again, Jack.
No. Yeah, I have a cricket that's lived in my house for a couple of months.
Wow.